Hello, today I'm going to tell you about the 2021 crime thriller called Midnight in the Switchgrass. The events of the film unfold in Pensacola, Florida, in 2004. A local driver stops for a bathroom break near a bridge and accidentally finds a young woman's body and her documents under the structure. Shortly after the man reports the incident to the police, Agent Byron Crawford from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement arrives on the scene and is assigned to the case. After a brief inspection of the body, he concludes that 26-year-old Sarah Kellick was killed elsewhere, and her body was then moved under the bridge. Later, a girl named Tracy leaves a party and, in a state of intoxication, ends up in a truck driver's parking lot where one of the drivers attacks her. Another man comes to the stranger's aid, hitting the assailant with a wrench and knocking him unconscious. The savior says he will take the girl to a safe place. Meanwhile, FBI agent Carl Helter and his partner Rebecca Lombardi are conducting an operation in a nearby motel. Undercover, Rebecca poses as a prostitute to meet with a client and record his confession on a wire. In the process, Carl realizes that the blonde man who appeared is not the one they need. He wants to get up, but his partner stops him. The guy becomes aggressive and hits Rebecca, then pulls out a knife. The brave girl confronts the offender and neutralizes him, then joins her companion. Tracy is heading in an unknown direction with truck driver Peter, who offers the girl to spend the night at his house, saying she might get along with his underage daughter, Bethany. The interlocutor agrees. At the police department, Byron speaks with his boss. The latter advises his subordinate not to focus on one case, even if it concerns 7 unsolved murders, as the connection between them is not proven. In the end, the boss removes Crawford after the agent insists on connecting the FBI to the case, as it falls under their jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the management transfers Carl and Rebecca to another territory, depriving them of the case due to the latter's inappropriate behavior. Lombardi is distraught. She has put a lot of effort into this mission. Nevertheless, the girl apologizes to her partner for yesterday's incident and states that she will continue to search for the person hunting girls. Helter is tired of the conversation, so he decides not to engage in discussion, and Rebecca plans to meet with management to prove her point. Byron meets with Sarah's mother, Georgia and Kellick, to inform her of her daughter's death. However, the woman already knows about the tragedy. She had a call from the police. But the man apologizes for his colleagues, saying that such a thing should not happen over the phone. He is about to leave when Georgia invites him inside. Kellick directly asks whether the policeman intends to say that they will definitely find her daughter's killer. But Byron does not intend to lie, as the likelihood of solving such a case is extremely small. While having a drink, Georgia tells about her family, her deceased mother, her alcoholic father, and her twin sister Caroline, who Sarah resembled in character. As a farewell, Crawford gives the grieving mother his contacts, after which Georgia asks the man to inform her if he finds her daughter's killer. Upon returning home to his family, Byron admits to his wife that the cruelty at work makes him despair and lose hope. But the wife convinces the man not to give up. She is sure that her husband will definitely find the killer. After Peter locks up the barn, he also reunites with his daughter and wife Karen for dinner. But the wife expresses a desire to spend more time together. But the family lives in the boondocks and is unfamiliar with neighbors. But Peter says that work takes up all his time, then announces that he needs to go back. His employer's company has few drivers left. Meanwhile, the agents continue their investigation. Carl is worried that they might get fired for this, but Rebecca reassures him. At the pawn shop, it becomes clear that their suspect won't show up, and the partners leave, running into Peter Little, who arrives at the motel for a meeting with a young night butterfly. He dances with the girl, and after a kiss, her by strangulation with his bare hands. In the morning, while playing near the house, Bethany doesn't hear a voice from the sewer, then runs away without telling anyone about it, leaving the victim weakly asking for help. Meanwhile, Byron arrives at the motel to investigate the murder of the maniac's next target, while somewhere in a dark room, Tracy is tied up. Meanwhile, the FBI agents show up at the motel to investigate their case. Despite his boss's reluctance to join forces, Byron gives Rebecca his business card, asking her to report if they have new information about their suspect. In the meantime, Peter remembers the murders he committed, smelling the clothes of his victims, and then goes to the shelter where he hides Tracy. He brings her a bucket of water, ordering her to wash. In the evening, Byron meets Rebecca at a bar to give details of his operation. A couple of years ago, he was tasked with investigating the murders of two prostitutes who worked at truck stops. Both were strangled, and their bodies bore signs of bites and beatings. And no one wanted to deal with this case, but the body count kept increasing over time. And now another girl, 16-year-old Tracy, has disappeared. After Crawford tells that the last two victims were clearly long-haul truck drivers, Lombardi tells how a few weeks ago, under the guise of a promiscuous girl, she started corresponding with a suspect and agreed to meet him at a motel. However, the police intervened too early, and everything fell apart. At the next meeting they scheduled, a local pimp scared him off, whom Rebecca knocked out. The agent reports that they are still in touch and were supposed to meet yesterday. Byron suggests that finding the killer will be more difficult as he will be hiding with double diligence. Then Rebecca meets with Tracy's sister, Hazer Walsh, who reports details from the evening of her relative's disappearance. It turns out that she also knows Calvin, the pimp, whom Lombardi has already met. The agent decides to visit the blonde man again. Tracy reminds Peter of his words. He promised to let her go if she behaved well. The truck driver replies that she has nowhere to go, so Walsh stays with him. When the captive asks how he can do all this, given that he has a daughter, the man gets upset, saying that Beta was not sent into this world to atone for his sins. Rebecca bursts into Calvin's room, points a gun at him, and asks what the man he scared off the night of their meeting looked like. The blonde says that the man was a truck driver with a lightning tattoo. But then Lombardi goes to a farewell lunch with Carl, where she talks about her past. After the girl accuses her interlocutors of weakness, Helter refuses to be her partner because of the agent's toxicity, after which he wishes her luck in Seattle and leaves. Rebecca communicates with Peter and arranges a meeting at a local club under Byron's supervision. Crawford's attention is distracted by a random man whom he chases and finds that the operation could have been exposed. The agent tries to ask Lombardi about this, but the microphone becomes unusable due to the rain. Peter, meanwhile, joins Rebecca, but she does not immediately understand that this is the killer until she notices the tattoo. But the girl is late to realize that she has been drugged. When Byron returns to the bar, he can't find his partner. The agent regains consciousness, tied up in Peter's truck, after which the man puts her to sleep again, saying that she came to her senses too soon. Byron goes home for guns and talks with his anxious wife, whom he promised to put the family first. Calming down his wife, the hero goes in search of the missing colleague. Byron visits an old acquaintance, Fred, who works in a truck parking lot, and forces him to provide access to the installed hidden cameras. From the records, he learns the carrier company where the killer works, a Southern Harbor. In the meantime, Rebecca comes to her senses in Peter's lair, but can't do anything as she is in chains. Tracy is still alive and hears the captive behind the wall. The killer visits Lombardi and tells her that he has dressed her in the dress of one of his victims. Byron arrives at Peter's employers and asks to show him information about the workers, despite the absence of a warrant. But the manager agrees to help when he finds out that this is for the investigation of a serial killer case. Having studied a stack of documents, Crawford learns the name of the killer, Peter Hilborough. Rebecca tells the captive about Heather's ordeal, after which she orders Tracy to do everything possible to get out of her cell. But tonight, Peter will kill her and plant the agent instead. Walsh begins to smash her cell, as a result of which she manages to bend the grid, behind which she notices a sewer pipe. Through it, the girl climbs out onto the street and runs as fast as she can. The running girl is noticed by little Bethany, who immediately starts screaming, attracting her father's attention. Peter gives chase. The fugitive hides in a grain field, then knocks on a neighbor's house, asking her to contact the police. At this time, Byron pulls up to the Hillborough house. Peter's wife informs that her husband went to visit a neighbor, Mrs. Cuber. In the meantime, the killer enters the old lady's house, deciding to check if Tracy is not hiding there. But he doesn't find the girl, as she is hiding. Infuriated, Hillborough returns to Rebecca, begins to beat and strangle her to find out where Tracy ran off to. His screams from the barn are heard by Byron, who is still waiting for Peter in his living room. He goes out into the street and starts exploring the surroundings. Crawford finds the killer's hideout in time to save Rebecca, who manages to stab the killer with a screwdriver. Rebecca comes to in a hospital room next to Carl and Byron. The Hillborough family leaves their home. Tracy returns to her sister, and Crawford fulfills the promise given to Georgia. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave your impressions of the movie. Goodbye.